As the 10th National Assembly and the 8th Edo State House of Assembly settle down to begin 4 years of legislative business, Nigerians have continued to reel out, to pour out their expectations from the National Assembly and, of course, Edo State House of Assembly for the next 4 years. Of course, you know that expectations are still very, very much a talking point now. So we are continuing our conversation from last week, where we left off last week talking about expectations of Nigerians from the 10th National Assembly. A very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us this morning. I am Agatha Egwari Uju. Yes, this morning we are going back to our conversation of last week with our guest, Tony Abolo, and a legal practitioner, Greg Iyai. They'll be speaking to us about, remember our topic for last week, expectations from the 10th Assembly. And of course, don't forget that Edo State House of Assembly, that's the 8th Assembly, have already begun legislative business, and they will be on for another 4 years. So what are Nigerians expecting? What do they want them to do differently? This is Midweek Connect. Like you know, we start off with the news tidbits. Our Edo State House of Assembly has received list of principal officers, council from the PDP, APC and the Labour Party. The Speaker, Blessing Agbabaku, also announced 2 lawmakers who have been co-opted into the council during Tuesday's plenary.
As for other parties, please, dear Mr. Speaker, this is the online council for now, and to get clear definition from parties that are involved.
Now, the stigma attached to domestic violence is still high despite heightened campaigns against it. Many still discriminate against victims, thereby preventing more people from speaking out. To correct this, wife of the Edo State Governor, Betsy Obaseki, is cautioning against any form of harassment targeted at Tina Ohiria, who recently had her left hand amputated as a result of a gunshot allegedly fired by her husband over a delayed meal. This was when she paid an unscheduled visit to the Edo State Specialist Hospital, where the victim is receiving treatment.
According to the law, nobody has any power over it. It's just the law. It will take the course of the law. So anyhow it ends, that is how it will end. You have no power over it. I have no power over it. If anybody harasses you, any for his family, friends, members or friends or anybody harasses any member of your family or you or your children, you report the matter. You're hearing me? You let us know.
One of your favorite health programs on NTA Benin, Seri Half Hour, is to hit the air again in no distant time. This is the fallout of the courtesy visit by Zonal Director, NTA Benin Network Center, Esosa Ukbonwa, who led management of the station to the management of the University of Benin.
Cement their relationship to take it to the next level. As you heard, the acting VC has actually, we was happy to collaborate because I mentioned about different areas, programs that we can do with Uniben, because as he said, they have the manpower, we have the audience, so we talk together with them. We can be able to project. We talked about energy, like everybody's talking about fuel, alternative. So now we're talking about alternative ways of energy, how to conserve energy, because like we are now hearing, electricity is going to go up. So these are the kind of things we want to do, have programs that we can enlighten the public about all aspects of life.
We are not in short supply when it comes to people who can come out there, all right, to talk on various aspects, if we are able to identify these aspects, all right. It's going to be mutually beneficial. University of Benin is going to be better advertised, not so, and people will tune in more to to NTA when they see that certain things are emanating, helpful to the community, to the society. Let's see, working with the PRO, how we can assemble certain persons that will look at thematic areas that will resuscitate programs, ideas that will nourish your, what you deliver to the public.
With the new electricity law assented to by President Bola Tinubu, which is expected to end the problem of national grid instability and frequent blackouts across the nation, Nigerians in Benin say it is a welcome development. But they are, however, appealing for immediate implementation of the law.
We have in Nigeria is inability for us to generate enough power. That is why you see companies are folding up and people are leaving the country because of the fact that there is no light. Even if you go to most African countries, you see that Nigeria is one of the countries that don't have constant light. Light is like a normal thing in every other country. But with this new electricity bill, I believe it gives power to states, individual. If I decide to say, okay, I want to generate light for only Ring Road, as far as Ring Road will be able to afford, and I can give them the constant electricity, then I have the right to do it. Unlike before that it was solely given to just one particular people to generate and sell.
It's a welcome development. But in other way around, in other hands, if the state can make it to go around, to get to the doorstep of a common man. Because right now, what we are witnessing in Edo State is only the government offices, the government parastatals, the entities. They are the one enjoying it for now.
If we just generate our own electricity for us, it go 2 days okay, because the thing way with the experience now, we not go see light, and when the month end, NEPA go come, whether you like it or not, you go pay estimated bill when it dey there. We dey beg them, make them give us a pay meter so that we know they get all this cheating.
All right, that's the news tidbits. So we're taking a short break now. When we return, we'll continue. We begin our conversation from last week. I told you we're replaying our conversation. That's expectations from the National Assembly. Just stay with us.
Join us every day on NTA Benin Network Center, Channel 7, VHF. Star Times on Channel 103. You can log on to our social media handles, YouTube, NTA Benin, Facebook, NTA Benin, Twitter, NTA Benin 1. For breaking news, call our news desk on 091 535 59648. NTA Benin, the award-winning station.
All right, thank you for staying with us. This is Midweek Connect. You're just in time for our discussion segment. We're setting agenda for the 10th National Assembly. Our guests are seated here. We have first a legal practitioner, Barrister Greg Iyayi. Good morning. You're welcome, sir.
Good morning, viewers.
All right, and then we have a seasoned broadcaster, Tony Abolo. Good morning, sir. You're welcome.
How do you do?
Very well, sir. Thank you. Okay, as always, we'll begin with a backgrounder to launch our discussions for the day. Let's hear this.
Tinubu has hit the ground running after his inauguration in May 29th this year, and the Senate and House of Representatives are the two arms of government that complement good governance. The inauguration of the National Assembly has taken place where Senator Godwin Akpabio is now the president of the 10th National Assembly, while Tajuddin Abbas elected Speaker, House of Representatives. The president of the Senate is the presiding officer of the Senate, whose chief function is to guide and regulate the proceedings in the Senate. House of Representatives represent citizens or their different constituents. As the 10th National Assembly have come on board, citizens are therefore expecting good governance through making of laws and policies that will better the lives of Nigerians. This week's edition of Midweek Connect is on setting agenda for the 10th National Assembly.
All right, thank you so much, Ifeoma Okafor, for that background. I setting agenda for the 10th Assembly. But Barrister Greg, let me start with you. Yes, even as much as we set agenda for the new set of representation, that's the 10th Assembly, I think it's proper we go back and for you, how the 9th Assembly, how did it fare?
Well, when we set agenda for the 10th National Assembly as a people, but whether that agenda is their own agenda is another thing. And that's what we've always been worried about. Yeah. Because it's one thing for the people to set agenda for their representatives, and it's another thing for the representatives to actually keep to that agenda. But I think items on the table are already very, very clear. Issue of security. I think the National Assembly should do something about it. Then the high cost of living. No one needs to be told. You can see various governments cutting the working days. And I think these are some of the issues that directly affect the people. Cost of living, security. Something has been done about education, but it's not enough to give loans. The schools have to be open, and that is very, very important. People doing the course of 5 years for 8 years, 9 years, doesn't make any sense. I think let me stop there for now.
Okay, you have already begun there. You have already opened the door of setting agenda. But Mr. Bolo, I want to before we continue with what we want them to do, let's take a quick run at the 9th Assembly. Let's see how they fared.
Well, the 9th Assembly for me was an utter embarrassment to what democratic practice ought to be. The truth of the matter is this. We are yet as a people to grapple with what is the essence of, call it, federalism. What is the essence of a presidential system of governance? And until we begin to understand, I've always advocated for a cultural perspective. Reason is, you don't transplant things from outside and they can't grow in your garden. You can't transplant presidential system from America and bring it here. We are not Americans. We are Nigerians. You can't transplant, even when we transplanted parliamentarianism into Nigeria. It didn't work or didn't quite succeed, unlike the way it succeeded in India. But so we ought to tell ourselves, what do we really want to do? Because you see, why the 9th Assembly, for me, was an utter embarrassment, was that at least the ground norm principle is separation of powers, which is that the executive is different from the legislature is different from the judiciary is different from the media. Those are the quadrangle of power in the structure of relations. Now, we are only hoping that if the legislature is to represent us, if that is the concept, and they agree with it, and it's on that basis they even stood for elections, and they are representing us, do they confer with us? Do they talk with us? Did we say everything that the president wants? Because you see, we are running a funny, call it, I think it's more of feudalism rather than bureaucracy, or rather than a democratic system of governance. And because it is feudalistic, and it's more bent on the northern part of how things are done. That is, you don't insult a big man, you don't tell him anything, so things can go wrong, but you don't complain. You must respect him. And so we kept quiet and look at the humongous amount of stealing that was going on. It's like we're talking today about Nigerian Air. Why are you talking about Nigerian Air? After the snake has left the place, what do you want to kill? Kill the snake now? You didn't ask questions. If that was an assembly, you didn't ask questions from day one. When they used 1 trillion to go and to give us a logo in Farnborough. I mean, that was I mean, to play on words. Farnborough, which is a city I know very well in the UK, which is an aircraft display town. It's like a fun fair. So how do you do that? So you didn't do what you should have done, and because you didn't even know your purpose of being the legislature that represents the people. They say, oh, you must cooperate. What is cooperation? We're not saying go and be fighting the executive. But if they ask for something, you wake up, $800 million loan, you approve. 5 trillion, you approve. This one, you approve. And at the end, we have about 77 trillion indebtedness on all of us. And who's carrying the can of worms? The people. Like the lawyer was saying, I mean, look at inflation now. Is the consequence of all that misgovernance and lack of addressing legislative work that has thrown us into this mess. Now we are the ones who are suffering. The 500 naira or 550 that we're paying for fuel, who's bearing the brunt? Somebody didn't ask questions when we should have asked questions. The loans that we're carrying on. Now Emefiele is out. Meanwhile, when we said by the Fiscal Responsibility Act, there are certain ways you do not escalate borrowing from the CBN. We went beyond the obligor limit that the federal government ought to have with the central bank. How do you have to owe the central bank 47 trillion naira, and then it's being spread over 40 years? That is the irresponsibility of legislative work. So the 9th Assembly was just not it at all. So when we want to set an agenda, we better look at all that was wrong and hope that it doesn't happen in the 10th Assembly.
Okay. Barrister Greg, do you share that view when he said, when he says the 9th Assembly was just not it at all?
I wholeheartedly agree with him. The reason is this: their oversight function was not functional. They didn't function in that area at all, because the government, the executive will just come, want to borrow to so amount, and then they will ask questions: how are you going to pay back? What is it going to be used for? How will this benefit Nigerians? And then how are you going to generate the money that you are going to service, that you use in servicing the loan? And for how long is it going to be? Or you are just going to build up debts again for the next generation? Nothing like that. Look at some appointments that were made. Those appointments, they were not appointments at all. You know, the issue of take a bow. You know, so that you watch what happens in other climes. You see people who come, whose names are sent to the parliament for confirmation. You see the way they are grilled. You see the way their history, you know, is brought right before them. You see the finesse, you see the depth, you see the intelligence, then you see the passion, and you see the idea of actually trying to find out whether this person is going to serve the people. Here is take a bow. You just take a bow and you go. You are confirmed. So the 9th Assembly was more or less, as people say, a rubber stamp assembly. And then this idea of not wanting to offend the executive, like Tony Abolo has rightly said, the separation of power. And that is how government functions. Each one of them is an equal arm of the government, the executive, the parliament, and then the judiciary, so that there will be some kind of checks and balances. And the 9th Assembly did not provide those checks and balances at all. We didn't see enlightened debates except where it served their own interest. We didn't see challenges where the executive should have actually been made to be on his toes. We did not see ministers being called to order. We didn't see the oversight functions in MDs and other government agencies. So in those areas, they failed. And then look at the monumental problem that came when the CBN was doing this currency redesign. You see, that was where we were watching and hoping that the National Assembly will come in. This National Assembly kept quiet till things went out of hand. So this is actually what we should look at when we are setting an agenda for the 10th Assembly. Okay. As for the 9th Assembly, thank God they have gone. I will just hope that the mistakes that were with them are not repeated in the 10th Assembly.
Okay. Earlier when Mr. Bolo was talking, he talked about doing what the president wants. People call it rubber stamp. You actually just called it rubber stamp. But for them, it's having a robust relationship, you know, a very good relationship with the executive to make sure things work out well for the people.
In what ways was it working out? Did it work out for the last 8 years? These were the worst 8 years of our lives. We just wasted time. And like even in the heat of it, I kept shouting. You know, we Nigerians, we're not even sorry for ourselves. It's like being sick and you don't want to kill yourself. Look at how long was Yaradua. Yaradua was barely 3 years in office. And because he was ill, he hardly governed. Then we went into a monumental disaster of Jonathan years, which we can't tell ourselves whether it was up or it was down. Then we went into chaos of 8 years. Add it all up. Are we not sorry for ourselves? 3 plus 6 plus 8. How long is that? How can a country use 15 years to waste its time? What is this robust relationship? We may be Africans. Yes, we are communal. We agree. We must reason. But like the lawyer here was saying, there should be some kind of, see, the word itself is very important. Robust debate. We've had assemblies. Before anything happens, you hear intelligence. In fact, when we're even now talking about setting an agenda, first the agenda must be set for the people. Who are those whom we send to these places? They must have intelligence. Okay, you are maybe chairman committee oil and gas. You have no clue about petrochemicals. You have no clue about oil and gas. You have no clue about world international oil politics. You don't have any idea, and yet you are the chairman. What are you sitting down there for? Then they put you for minerals. You don't even know what it is for. Everybody wants to ask, what is in it for me? What is in it for me? We are put in aviation. You've never flown one aircraft, and you don't even know what it is to manage the airline industry. You don't belong to IATA. You just have nothing. And these are the people who end up running the place. And you have a mismatch. Okay, here was the president of the Senate who did the geography and sensing. Fine. Then where did he apply his geography, doctorate degree of geography into governance, into managing the legislature? We didn't see it. So we must begin to, first of all, pick the right people to go into the assembly. I think that ought to be the first agenda. So the agenda is for us, not even for the 10th assembly.
Yes.
Okay, now we have a new assembly. I think we have an opportunity to make it right this time around. Don't you think so?
Sure. No, the question is, how are we going to build a connect? You see, we're still having the building blocks of our politics and relationships. Those who go to the house. Okay, I'll give you a simple example. And a good friend of ours, the name it's a popular lawyer, it's a professor, a Benin chap, who was in the Legislative Institute in Abuja. Okay. You see, one of the things he's been decrying, a bill is about to be passed. He's even worried that lawyers don't even make any input into the bill that is about to be passed. Yes. Then you can imagine a bill is to be passed in Abuja. Now, Agatha, tell me, how on earth am I going to leave Benin to go and have an input into a legislation that is going to be passed in Abuja? Which money do I have? Forget about now. even then when it was cheap to fly and cheap to travel. How am I going to make an input? Which means something is fundamentally wrong with the system. We, the people, cannot be represented. They don't call us. And how many of us have even tried calling our representative? They won't pick the phone. So you don't make any input. They come to town, you don't see them. So there's a big disconnect between those who represent us and ourselves. So if we don't see you and you don't see us, whose views are you carrying out in that house or in the parliament? I don't know. So until we begin to build a relationship in which they have a sense of responsibility and accountability, then they will now realize. It's like when Dr. Amadi was saying on air yesterday, for heaven's sake, it's going to be important for the constituency that even the legislators ought to make it mandatory for you to have town hall meetings. Yeah. For heaven's sake, it will be a town hall meeting very different. This time, really, really very different. In which they should come and we, the constituents, ought to gather at some periodic time to tell them this bill you people want to pass, or this law, or this is our need. We are not interfacing with the legislatures, legislative members. So how are they going to represent us in Abuja? No way. So until we create that relationship between the constituents and the representatives, we're not going to get it right. And so it is then I carry your message, and they must be able to receive our letters. They must even write to their constituents. Do they even know their constituents? Yeah. Or do they just come and distribute rice, beans, motorcycle? Is that what a constituency idea is? No. It is that you should come and take a pulse. What are we thinking? What do we want? What should we do when we reach Abuja? That is what will make a lot of difference.
Okay, Barrister Gregory, now engaging, how the citizens now begin to engage their legislators. We are having a new set of representation. How do they carry the people along?
I think the people actually have to wake up and know that they have to hold their elected representatives to account. You see, when I was in England in 1986, I was in Hizme. I found out that the MPs there, at least once every month, they have what we call constituency surgery. They will come to their constituency office, just like Mr. Abolu said. It's not to distribute motorcycle or bagged rice in small bags. It's for you to sit down. They will enlighten you on the bill that is going on. You will make your input. You will ask questions. They will challenge you on the contribution you made, that they saw you on television. This is the way you were making the contribution. That's not what we sent you there to do. You were not representing us. And you see, he will be taking notes. I was very surprised. I said, is this how democracy functions? And I was told that every month that at least you must come once and do that. Constituency surgery. You meet with your constituents, and then your constituents talk to you, and then they give you the kind of message they want you to take back to the parliament. And then you also report to them what you have done, efforts you have made, contact you have made concerning issues that affect them and affect them directly. And it was a very robust discussion that they had, like we are saying, not for sharing rice, not for sharing motorcycle, not for sharing wrappers. No, it's actually to discuss issues that affect them. I think we, the people, will have to wake up. We have to tell our legislators that we have a right to see them. They should not change their telephone numbers after election. If they change their telephone numbers after election, they should give us the new numbers. And we should be able to access them. And if we call them, they don't respond. We send texts, they don't respond. We send pictures, there's no response. We should make it clear to them that they are not doing our bidding. I think if some of them are being challenged like that, maybe they will wake up. But we, the people, must wake up, shine our eyes as they say first, and let them know that You were sent there to represent not yourself, not your family, not your friends, but to represent us. We gave you the votes, and you are there actually to save us. Because actually our MPs, whether local government MP, federal or senators, should actually be closest to us. We can't easily see the governor. I should be able to see my local government councillor who is representing me at the local level. I should be able to see my House of Reps member when Honorable Idehe was our rep. We used to go there. We used to see him. Well, of course, he had a very cosmopolitan view of politics, and he was very accessible, and he made sure that whenever people were talking, he took notes, and he told his aides that they must work on that. When he was at Ring Road, he did that. When he was in Abuja, he did the same. It's unfortunate that we didn't have him for too long. May God bless him where he is. But I do hope that our representatives in this 10th Assembly, that they will actually represent us.
Okay. The phone lines are open. You can call in and make your contributions on the programs. You have the phone lines displayed on the screen. Call in and make your contributions on the program. Mr. Ebolo, when he was talking, he made mention of sharing of rice, but to the people, that seems like constituency project, and it goes on and on and on.
I agree, and I wanted to make my own call it input into that, which is one of those reasons why we have lost the meaning of being a legislature. Do we, the people, understand what it is to have a legislative representation? We think those gifts, those distributions, those are the things that are those so tangible. But those are the work for the executive. You know, we got everything upside down in such a way that even the executive who have a function to run education, run health, run roads, run water, run other social services, we have left them, and we now have distributed the function of the executive between the legislature and
okay.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, hold on. Hello, good morning.
My name is Nuruddin. I'm calling from Ugo.
Good morning, sir.
I want to appreciate what we discussing. The only difference between a military government and a democracy in the assembly. But consistently between 99 and this, whether we have had an assembly is what is obviously debatable. And in all honesty, I feel troubled that we have a 10th assembly that has not inspired any hope in me. You recall the fact that the president of the Senate, whose emergence was influenced by the presidency, for that same man who during COVID-19, people who get homologous salary under his supervision, that is NDC, was said to have spent $100 billion for welfare of staff. And in one of his interactions with members of the House of Representatives, was Honorable Minister, it's okay. And so when we have persons who are moral cadaver superintending over an assembly that ought to constitute men of honor and integrity, we have serious issues. The assembly has been unstable. Billions of dollars were taken as loans, and we're told that these monies were expended on infrastructure. I have traveled by roads that were supposed to have been built. If the assembly was doing oversight function, they would have asked the question, why is Kaduna Road not built? Nobody would have accepted that you take the kind of loan you took that has, compromised the future of my own grandchildren over what they do not know, to build a railway from Abuja to Kaduna, that you will not pay in the next 50 years, assuming the revenue keep coming. So we need an assembly that will have the integrity, that will have the intrepidity to look at the presidency and say, hey, we're not going to do this. They are already ingratiating themselves before the president, who are calling him Papa. The very moment you come with that kind of whatever, it means so easy is being, it is they classify such proclivities that will not be good. I did a mail to the Deputy Prime Minister of the UK. Within 24 hours, I got a response. No thing you have Ricky to be able to have thought to be there. Why are you disturbing me? And these were people we choose to vote for. And so we obviously have issues, and until we deeply understanding and get this person to be accountable, whether there is an MSLA who did what should not have been done, was a function of the fact that we did have a National Assembly that ought to do what it should do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nuruddin. So, Mr. Bolo, you can continue.
Yes, that's it's all part of the worry, but I think we should, like Barrister EIE has said, and I align with him. It is time now for us to identify how to resolve some of these problems. We can enumerate on and on. Nothing has worked, let's face it, in the last 63 years or so. So we, the people, like he says, must wake up. And it is we who must wake up. Like he said, the roads were not built, the railway lines were not done. Many of us have traveled. I mean, I can't remember when between here and Abuja, you found one straight, clean road like it used to be. You can't go, and Edo State has been cut off. You can't go to Ekpoma. You can't go to Warri. You can't go to Abraka. You can't go to Asaba. What's going on? Meanwhile, you go and see in the budget, so humongous money has been budgeted. Where is it? It's not there. Rather, you hear about humanitarian aid for distributing rice and indomie to school children, and such money that you can't even use it to cook. I mean, if you cook with 500 billion, which they say they were releasing every month to the humanitarian and disaster management minister.
I mean, during COVID, when there was
no school, yet there was palliative and to people who were in their own homes. So it is the lack of we not getting it right, understanding the function of what it is to be a member of the House. So if we now understand that, then you go into the House and you go and legislate. In those days, it was lawyers we looked up to even compete and win elections because they regarded themselves as key functionaries of what legislation is all about, because it is about lawmaking. And instead of that, we're now having all sorts of people from all sorts of professions going into the legislative house, and then you just go and make a mess of it. When will you know how to be a draftsman? The draftsman skill is a very specialized skill in lawmaking. Yes. And you're not grounded in it. All the whereas I where to for and where on to, you won't even know where you're going to put it. Only a lawyer knows is right from the left. And even being a governor, you must have gone through the experience of even legislature and so on, so that when you eventually govern, you know how to relate with the legislature and know how to use legislation. Because you see, like they say, law is for social engineering. Law is meant to improve society. And until you understand that concept, you will not even know what to do, either as a legislature or even as a governor. So we're having a crisis of even understanding concepts and what we are doing, and we're just wasting time as far as I'm concerned. We're just wasting time. And I don't know when we're going to wake up and begin to ask the right questions. But again, another thing we ought to remember, there is in the law the capacity for the constituents to recall an unsatisfactory legislation.
How many times have that worked for the people?
Are
they even aware?
A good question to ask.
How many times? Okay, we have it in the law, but how many times have that worked? How many times have you seen that happen?
It worked in the case of Dino Melai.
It did.
But that is if you have an unbiased umpire, the recall process can actually work. Because there were many times that many people were dissatisfied with their legislators, but the process was made cumbersome, and it was made it was skewed against the people, because INEC had to come in, had to conduct it. You have to collect signature, verify them, and all that. So people just say, well, it's 4 years. Let's see what happens after the 4 years. But 4 years, like he has said, is quite a long time in a man's life, particularly when he's spent in misery and in suffering and frustration. So the recall process is there, and we are just praying that the people will actually wake up. We need to wake up and hold our elected representatives actually to account. And we must tell them we sent you and you have to serve us. If we do, they will wake up. And then the ones that are not meant to be there will just find themselves, they will find their level. And they will live there and the right people will come in. You see, sometimes when I watch legislators, like Jim Jordan, Ted Cruz, in the Senate, John F. Kennedy Jr., grilling people, you know that the work of legislation is sweet. And these are people who are passionate about their country. And you see, when they get there, some of them are able to build this bipartisan, because here we talk so much about party supremacy. Party supremacy, okay, discipline within the party is good. But there are issues like the American Congress on the issue of Taiwan. They came to a bipartisan agreement. They visited Taiwan to reassure them that, look, if you are attacked, and then they held the executive, to account. Like, look, Taiwan has paid for some aircraft, military aircraft. They've been threatened by China, and you have not delivered. You've taken the money for almost 3 years. I mean, they shook the Biden administration, and the executive didn't want them to go. But even people in Biden's party, they were part of it. Biden had to wake up. You see, those are legislators who know their work, and they are not parochial whenever they are taking on any issue that is of national interest. And that is another thing. Are they there for national interest or for their own interest?
And something I think Nuruddin raised, which is important for us to underscore, is the fact that there is this paddy arrangement. Okay, Akpabio was, they say, consensus. Is it look, it ought to be the parliament that chooses their officers, not executive choosing for them. Because when you now have the Senate, the vice president mediating, we need a Christian to be, so that because it is not like this, then you hear Tinubu is begging, Tinubu was involved. You mean they have nothing else to do in life? Is that why we voted for them? So that they will now begin to meddle inside the... Do your work. You are the executive. Go and do your work. Nigeria's in a mess. Go and do it. Forget about how these people choose the officers. Because when you choose them, they'll be beholden to you. Remember when Omar Agege was helped by Buhari? When he finished, he went down to do so. He went to kneel down and bow down. And he said, it's my culture. What rotten culture. Culture that you are the deputy Senate president. You go, if you want to greet him, bring out your hand if you want to. And then, all that being subservient should be out of the way. So until we now find that the party, while the party may at the background, you ought not even to hear that party is busy working who becomes. You don't even have to hear how the president affected. Yes, not that it doesn't happen in America, but they are far away from it. But then the people have the independence. You see, it took years for that independence of the legislature to be established, and we ought to begin it in such a way. After all, here in Edo State, we saw how, how many years? 6 years? We hardly know whether it was the House of Assembly or not a House of Assembly. It's only now we're looking forward to a House of Assembly. And because we now say, okay, whatever it is that they have done, they have satisfied themselves. So they are now the majority. So there'll be no shaking of the apple cart. So I hope that we can go forward. But we expect that even now, let's even practice it locally. In the House of Assembly, here in Edo State, here in Benin, next door, Ring Road. It's not far away. We should even begin to hold them accountable. We should hold them to question. We should be able to interact with them. What is it? So you're a member of the House. Are you
when you say hold them accountable, make them accountable. You are saying that the people should get involved. I want to ask, how do the very ordinary Nigerians begin to get involved, begin to see his representative as somebody who is there actually to serve him, and he can actually go there and, request that he be served rightly?
Let me tell you something. Do you know every legislator is supposed to have a constituency office Many of them do not have functional constituency offices.
And that word is important. Functional offices, not just office.
Not just a place you paint and you put signboard.
And maybe the picture of the legislator.
The legislator there. There should be some staff there. Like in England, as I said, that man, the Hazeme MP, there were at least 5 people in his office, even when he was in London.
Could create employment, let's face it. Does that not create employment?
Yes. You could drop a letter there, and it will get to him. And they can even tell you when you come for response. So we should have functional offices. Many of the offices we are seeing, maybe it's just a part of their house, and then they just put the signboard there. But do you know that these things are in the budget for them? To have a functional office, to have staff in their constituency offices. But you hardly see any of these things. At least they are with us. You can go and meet them and tell them. We can protest. We can hold a banner. We can write a letter. And we can pay a visit to them in the house. You don't have constituency office where we can see you. We cannot be coming to your house or coming to your office. Have an office in your constituency. And then we wake them up in a way. Even if it's a store, tell us when you will be there. And then there should be some staff there. Because allowance is made for you to have some staff there, have some stationery, have some office equipment, have some communication equipment, that we can contact you, we can reach you, we can communicate with you. So that is one of the ways we can hold them accountable. Then some of them made promises when they were campaigning. We must remind them when they win of the promises that they made. And we should trouble them with it. That this is what you said you will do. That you will negotiate for us that this road should be given attention. That our primary school is dilapidated. And you should take up the issue with the executive. Our children cannot be trekking. You can imagine paying for this when there's no primary school in your community, paying transport. How are people going to do it? So these are things, these are ways in which you can actually hold them accountable. It's not that we are going to tie a rope on their feet. No, but we'll remind them of their promises.
Why would I? So we don't be. You see, I will use the Edo State as a case study. And that is to put it in this way. Today, we have the executive that promised us Gele Port. I read somewhere that they will soon travel to, I don't know where it is, somewhere in the world, Antwerp also, somewhere in Europe, to go and sign one MOU or whatever it is to get us Gele Port. Fine. Then we've talked about industrial park. We've talked about refinery. These are the things, after all, the governor is very far away. Let him be busy doing those MOUs and doing those things. Yes. That is his job. Fine. It is your legislation you'd go and ask. I come from Ubine or come from somewhere down Ekama Road. Where is this port? When is this port taking off? Because it will do A, B, C, D to our people. Yeah. And so, where is it? Or you say the industrial park, they say it's somewhere in Obayonto or somewhere there. Then you should be able to say what is happening. Then it is the function of that legislative representative to go and worry the governor on our behalf. Then in that way, when he sees the pressure coming, the people mount pressure on the legislature mount pressure on the governor sits up. Then he now knows that the people are ready for a democracy engagement. But until we do that, the governor can do whatever he wants to do. He will forever be busy. And in any case, he's busy, yes. But we want now to see the next level of pressure. From your local government, there's pressure. From the state assembly, there's pressure. Then the people like Barrister Yai says, we can carry placard, we can demonstrate.
Not to tie them, but
no, we won't tie them. We carry placard. And of course, so that it becomes a function of democracy. That is, the people can express their grievances. And we don't need police or anybody, all those permission. No, we are allowed in a democracy to express. There's freedom of expression. Is that not embedded in the Constitution? Yeah. So carrying a placard is freedom of expression. All those things are the way we will get this democracy to work. And bottom line again, we will never leave it. And that is that The people matter, and the people must engage the process. We have not engaged the process, and that's why we are complaining. So there's no point blaming governor, blaming this. No, we the people should blame ourselves. What a fine example Nuruddin gave. He wrote a letter to the deputy prime minister, and he got a reply. Write a letter here. Write a letter here. For whatever it is, even to be angry. They will tell you, "You are wasting my time. Who is this? Who is this? Is this what I came here to the house to do?" No. Even if you're a governor. You see, it was a corner many years ago who pointed it out to me. See, we grew up in an era where when you write a letter to the civil service office, you must get a reply. What are they doing in that civil service office? You must get a reply. It's not public service. Then if I am a member of the public and I write a letter, you reply me. I ought to get a reply.
Yeah.
Within the quickest time. I hear they say, oh, this is the reason why they made the offices so exciting and all of that, so that they can function and do well. We are saying turn around should be very quick. Within 24 hours, you should get a reply. Yes or no. But not that you get a letter, somebody sitting down there. Doing what? What do you wake up in the morning to go and do in the civil service? It's not to serve the public. The governor is there to serve the public. Civil servants are supposed to go and serve the public. And we must get quick service attention, quick service delivery. We're not getting it. So when we talk about governance, they say civil service is the engine room. Okay, the engine has broken down. So how will the car move? So this is where the problem is. The civil service must wake up and begin to help governance to function. Civil service in the legislature, civil service for the governor, all of it must be highly functional, operational. Then we'll now begin to get service. Because we're not getting service. For 60-something years, how long are we going to keep waiting?
All right. We don't have much time again, Barrister Gregory. I want to get your closing remarks on this issue.
Yes. Democracy is the government of the people, for the people, by the people. We must put pressure on our people. During the NSAS panel, I represented the Deaf and Deaf Association. There were some of them who were in hospital. I wrote to the governor that their case needed to be looked into. And then also, at the panel, there were no sign language people. I wrote to the governor, and I moved the motion in the panel. You know, within 2 days, the governor replied. And he sent somebody to my office twice. Yeah. I was in court.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I was in court. I said, I have the letter with me. He replied. And immediately, you know, they contacted the Minister of Justice. The Minister of Justice contacted the Minister of Education. They provided interpreters. Because these people, they had cases in the panel. And then you were coming and you were talking. They were just like onlookers looking at us. But eventually, when I wrote to the governor and I moved the motion in the panel, the governor responded within 2 days. And interpreters were sent throughout the period of the panel. They provided 2 every day.
Okay. I guess here we call it a day. Thank you so much, Barrister Gregory and of course, Mr. Tony Abulu, for your time on Midweek Connect. We hope that this time around things will change for the better. Okay. Just so you know, the views expressed on this program are that of our guests and not that of the NTA our staff. We continue to pay tribute to our colleague, Ufoma Isegine, who ordinarily would have been here with us as a co-presenter. I told you a few weeks back we lost him to the cold hands of death, and he has since been buried. Let's hear this.
Very good morning to you and welcome to the program. My name is Ufoma Isegide.
We'll remember you with all your special nuances and our memories from all the days gone before that we were privileged to share with you. We grieve for you, cry for you, and even smile because of you. And in all, and tomorrow we'll feel you, gone in some ways, but your presence ever near. Go well, stay well. Adieu, Ufuma. Yes, that's for my Segine there. Indeed, we still grieve for him, cry for him, and even smile with him, for him. We hope that he's finding rest in the bosom of the Almighty. So yeah, we'll call it a wrap on the program. See you again next week. Bye.